Welcome to the 2019 Herbie Awards presented by AT&T. Here are your hosts, Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit.
Celebrating the 150th anniversary of college football, handing out awards, some of the great trophies here on display, the College Football Hall of Fame, the Davey O'Brien Award, and of course, the one we love the most, the Herbie Award. Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit here.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to do it this year because this is fun. This is a way that we kind of look back over the course of the season that we've had together, and you hand out the awards for a lot of different categories, things that have struck you as being able to create your own thing.
You and I have talked about this. There's been there's great individual awards, some great team accomplishments this year. So it's always fun to do the postseason. In the preseason, you and I kind of speculate what we think might happen.
Yeah.
With the postseason, it's obviously great because we're reacting to what we saw.
This era of college football now is driven by offense for sure. So let's crank it up. We want to hand out a bunch of these bad boys. So let's start with the Offensive Player of the Year and the nominees for that, Herbie.
Well, we're going to start with Joe Burrow, who obviously had a monster year for LSU. What more can you say? Joe Brady came in, brought a new offensive system in, and Joe Burrow took advantage of that every week, putting up bigger and bigger numbers, in command, having answers, which is what all great quarterbacks do. And to me, he did an exceptional job of doing that. How about Travis Etienne at Clemson? You know, there are a lot of good backs. How do you separate them? Well, I think Travis Etienne averaging 8 yards a carry. I mean, think about that. Every time 9 gets the ball, he's almost getting a first down. I don't care who they played. He is the key to their offense, and number 9 deserves a lot of recognition. And then Justin Fields, the Georgia transfer. What an incredible year for Ryan Day. Takes over for Dwayne Haskins, 50 touchdown passes. Everybody thought, how's Ohio State going to do it without Urban Meyer? How are they going to do it without Dwayne Haskins? They brought a different style of offense in, led by his leadership and athletic ability, and obviously it became even better offense for the Bucs.
The Herbie Award for Offensive Player of the Year goes to LSU's Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow just had a scintillating, transformational season, and I know a lot of the credit goes to the different style of offense, and LSU doesn't even look like the same team, but the 48 passing touchdowns. You realize in the history of the SEC, nobody's thrown more touchdown passes, nobody's thrown for more yards. Think of the guys in the league over the years: Danny Werfel, Peyton Manning, Johnny Manziel, and Joe Burrow is at the top of the list. I think Kirk, he deserves credit not only for executing the offense, but I feel like he made himself better from a mechanical standpoint too, and it just made him just a sensational player.
Incredible to watch the transformation, really, because you and I talked last week, in fact, about when Alabama beat LSU in the national championship. It was about a 7 or 8 year drought for LSU's offense. So it's not just Joe Brady coming in and making this offense better this year. To me, it's really about where they have been and the makeover that LSU enjoyed this year. And Joe Brady and Joe Burrow together, and of course the players on the rest of the offense deserve all the credit, but Joe Burrow is getting all the accolades.
And rightfully so. After transferring from Ohio State as a graduate transfer, looking for an opportunity just to play somewhere, to get on the field, he's going to get on the field, and he's going to have to build a bigger trophy case, not only for the Herbies, but for some of the other things he's going to get.
Some big ones coming up this week.
There's no question about that. Now, Joe Burrow, our Herbie's Offensive Player of the Year. Defense, maybe it doesn't win championships the way it used to, but defense certainly keeps you from losing championships. How about the Defensive Player of the Year nominee?
You know, it just seems like with all the talk about Chase Young, sometimes people forgot about Derek Brown. I know the NFL's not going to forget about Derek Brown. One of the more dominant interior players we've seen in college football in a long time. Has power, but also quick enough to be able to be a difference maker and a disruptor for Kevin Steele in that Auburn defense. Isaiah Simmons. Boy, you talk about a hybrid, a guy that can play linebacker, he can play safety. They blitz him, where he led the team in sacks. He's dropping coverage. You just saw the interception. Plays man-to-man. He can do it all and has a very unique athletic skill set that separates him from his peers. And then there's Chase Young. You know, he had the 4 sacks against Wisconsin where he really took it to a different level. And sitting down talking to him this year, I really enjoyed listening to him. He's always been big and strong, but listening to his defensive line coach, Larry Johnson, he took it to a different level with the technique in his hands and awareness of where the football is, which allowed him to have a monster 2019.
The Herbie Award for Defensive Player of the Year goes to Ohio State's Chase Young.
This dude's a game plan wrecker. He missed a couple of games this year, and he still led the nation in sacks. He's a disruptive guy, and even if he doesn't show up, Herbie, on the stat sheet in some particular game, it is probably because you gave him so much attention that you freed other people up, and that's the definition of being a defensive player.
Yeah, you could definitely say most outstanding player in the country could be Chase Young. Not just being a disruptor, but I think what I noticed in him is when teams, as you say, will put two on him, frees up other people, but over the course of 60 minutes, he's still going to get his.
Yeah.
He is still going to come up with plays that end up deciding the game. And I just loved what I said earlier about how he's looking for the football. You watch the NFL, these guys aren't always going for a kill shot. They know where that football is, and they're stripping it. They're looking for it, trying to disrupt it. I mean, I don't know how many forced fumbles he had, but it was a bunch.
Yeah, he comes in there. You mentioned his hand technique. He uses that on the quarterbacks well. Now, when Chase Young and that Ohio State defense sees Clemson in the college football playoff, what do you expect Clemson to do to try to minimize his impact, if it's even possible?
Well, they're going to have to run the football. I think Travis Etienne, who we just talked about a little bit earlier, will play a big role in what Clemson wants to do as an offensive scheme. Always is every week for them. But I think we have athletic ability with Trevor Lawrence. Zone read him. Don't block him. Read him at times. Try to run around him. And then, of course, getting the ball out of the hands quickly of Trevor Lawrence, I think, helps. He's so athletic, you can roll away from Chase Young. But Clemson's so confident in who they are. I don't think they'll look at Chase Young, at least early, and say, oh, we're worried about Chase Young. I think they're confident in their players, and they're going to try to play him straight up, just knowing who Clemson is. And then they'll have to make adjustments if Chase Young starts to become the enforcer that he's been all year.
You know, I would say this, as dynamic as Chase Young is, most of those guys in the Clemson offense, they spent a whole 3 seasons before 3 or 4 seasons dealing with all those defensive linemen that Clemson had.
They're used to seeing it.
Yeah,
they're used to seeing it.
I don't know if they've seen dudes quite like him,
right,
but they've certainly seen something very similar. Now, let's hand out a few more Herbies a little bit quicker fashion. Let's start with the newcomer of the year. Several great nominees here.
Well, Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. In fact, we've got a couple Pac-12 quarterbacks, but he had a monster year, threw over 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, and really played well late in the year. And I think in the future, you're going to want to keep an eye on Jaden Daniels. I think with Herm Edwards, the ability to recruit, he's going to have a lot of great playmakers around him. Keaton Slovis, what a story. Ended up being really the 3rd quarterback for USC and Clay Helton with a lot of different challenges early in the year with some injuries. Slovis stepped up, threw for over 3,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and completed 72% of his passes. Just a great year for Clay Helton in the offense. And how about Derek Stingley Jr.? What a year he had. Led the SEC in interceptions as a freshman. Notice how he gets his head turned around. This may be the greatest interception of the year, considering what was at stake. Late, gets his head turned around, comes up with the interception, and just a great awareness for such a young player.
The Herbie Award for Newcomer of the Year goes to USC's Keaton Slovis.
Man, this young guy barely recruited. USC sort of discovered him, and I love that gunslinger mentality.
Oh, yeah.
He does not care. He will turn the ball loose. He has confidence.
And the thing that he wasn't highly touted. So for all these young players that are out there thinking about you're not a 5-star, he's a great example of just keep chasing, keep chopping wood, and have eventually a great future.
Hey, give me the catch of the year, Herbie.
Well, San Jose State wide receiver Bailey Gaither. How about this catch?
Look at that. And he stayed in.
Stayed in bounds. Tips it right over the defender. Holds onto the ball and gets a knee down for the touchdown.
And it turned out to be a winner, too. They only won by 5 against Army. And by the way, the Spartans had a really good season, really improvement for San Jose State this year. Best offensive formation here. I'm here to tell you, I love this one.
Hippo.
A spread, that's great.
Yeah,
Give me the hippo and like 8 offensive linemen and Taylor in there.
You know, you've got a couple fullbacks, H-backs. You know, when you have 8 offensive linemen, and you're gonna get that yard.
Still to come on the Herbie Awards, we will give you the upset of the year. It might be one that Herbie saw first. This felt like a very chalky year, 2nd straight year in the college football playoff that we've had 3 undefeated teams. Prior to last year, only 3 undefeated teams total had made it to the college football playoff. That is not to say that there haven't been some great upsets this year. How about the nominees for the upset of the year in college football?
Yeah, this is what makes college football so special, is trying to figure out where these upsets are going to happen. Just a couple weeks ago, Arizona State, Oregon's driving to get to the Pac-12 championship with 1 loss. Think about the significance of that loss for Oregon, where they showed up a little flat, and Herm Edwards in Arizona State. We talked about Jaden Daniels as a newcomer. They had a monster night, hit some big passes, put 31 up on that Oregon defense to pull off the upset. Georgia State over Tennessee. They were a 26-point underdog early in the year, and it looked like the faithful in Knoxville thought this is going to be a long season.
Hey, you know what? You give Georgia State credit, but you also give Tennessee credit. I mean, that could be a season record for Tennessee.
We might talk about Tennessee later in the year as far as kind of showing some perseverance. How about Illinois over Wisconsin? Another 31 points. 31-point underdog, and Lovie Smith and the Illini at home. Maybe Wisconsin peeking ahead to the big game with Ohio State that next week. Regardless, the Illini and Lovie Smith get a big win to propel them to a solid year in Champaign.
The Herbie Award for Upset of the Year goes to Arizona State for their win over Oregon.
You could make the argument that both the Illinois win over Wisconsin and this one had an impact on at least playing for a spot in the college football playoff. But this one was so direct, and Arizona State had been struggling, and it was really sort of a coming out party, it seemed, on a national level for Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I just think of the reason I gave it the winner is the impact. Like I said, if Oregon wins this game, they go to Santa Clara, they play the way they did against Utah, they go ahead of Oklahoma.
How about the best tandem in college football?
Well, we talked so much about Joe Burrow, but the true beneficiaries are Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. How about that tandem of wide receivers, both over 1,000 yards? Every week, it seemed like they came up with big play after big play with Jefferson and Chase. So they're up there. Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins, different kind of tandem with a quarterback and a running back. Ohio State's offense starts with their running game. And if you think about stopping Fields, Dobbins will hurt you. Worry about Dobbins, Fields will hurt you. So I think that tandem definitely needs to be recognized as one of the best in the country. And the last, Zach Bond and Chris Orr. Boy, did they enjoy a great year this year for the Wisconsin defense. End up Bond with 19.5 tackles for a loss, 12.5 sacks, and Chris Orr 11.5 sacks. So together, really leading this defense and attacking opposing offenses.
The Herbie Award for Best Tandem goes to LSU's Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson.
And the winners, those two receivers of Joe Burrow's, one of them with nearly 1,500 yards to lead the nation, Jamar Chase, and then Justin Jefferson was the guy who hauled in more passes than anyone else.
Yeah.
So many weapons that Burrow used so well, but that too, man, pick your poison with those two guys.
Yeah, and it makes it really hard on a defense when you have one receiver, you can try to take him out. When you have two to account for at that level, it takes it to a whole different level for a defense to have to contend with.
Combining for 32 touchdowns, which might lead us to one of the nominees for the best coordinator of the year, Herbie.
Oh, Joe Brady. He's already collected the Broyles Award for the top assistant in the entire country. Very well deserving. Comes over from the New Orleans Saints. Brings a NFL system. Steve Insminger, nice enough there on the right in the glasses, who's the co-offensive coordinator, to allow him to really let him do what he wanted to do offensively. And Jeff Hafley comes over from the San Francisco 49ers as a co-defensive coordinator. Last year, Ohio State allowed 25 points a game. This year, cut it in half. A little over 12 this year for Ohio State. Hafley playing more zone, had a defense that I think played with a lot more confidence, definitely recognized as one of the top assistants. And I think Phil Snow deserves credit at Baylor. You know, he's been around a long time, usually plays with 4 down linemen and 2 or 3 linebackers. This year committed to a 3-3-5, playing in that Big 12. You got to appreciate his willingness to make that adjustment, really paid off for the Bears.
The Herbie Award for Best Coordinator goes to LSU's Joe Brady.
Think about this. Orgeron said, I want to change the offense. You go and you find this guy's with the Saints. He's not even 30 years old at the time he was hired at LSU, and he has transformed LSU, the national championship race, and probably his career, too.
His career. I mean, what is he, 30 years old? He wins the Broyles Award. Think about all the NFL teams that want him, the other college teams that want him. Hopefully, if Coach O has his way, he's staying right there in Baton Rouge.
As Coach O said, we're a step ahead, trying to make sure they keep him. Take a look at our Capital One Bowl Mania preview. You see those games in the New Year's Six. The top 2 are the semifinals in the college football playoff. And let's talk about what Joe Brady and LSU face against Oklahoma. An Oklahoma defense that by no means is a juggernaut, but it is one that is much improved from a year ago.
Yeah, you know, I think that this matchup right away, I think the initial reaction is boy, this LSU offense hasn't been stopped by anybody. Oklahoma, even though they have improved, how are they going to match up athletically and physically? And that's going to be the great challenge. They are a defense that believes in a lot of twisting, a lot of different looks that give offensive linemen some issues as far as their communication. And they've got 3 weeks to come up with a plan. If I'm Oklahoma, I'm doing everything I can to just try to keep the plays in front of me. You know, you really roll the dice if you play man-to-man against this offense and with the corners that Oklahoma has. I would not recommend that. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to just try as hard as you can to maybe make Clyde Edwards-Helaire the running back or Joe Burrow with those quick underneath slants, make them have to go the long way. Because if you say, no way, we're going after them, we're going to get aggressive, then you're going to give up huge plays, and it's going to be over like that.
You know, it's really exemplified how difficult it was in the Georgia game. Georgia tried to mix defenses, and the one play where Burrow had like almost 9 seconds to throw the ball because they decided to drop in coverage. Yeah. You can't do that either. You can't cover him that
with his accuracy, he's going to find a hole. Great communication with Burrow and his receivers when teams do that. And then he's athletic enough that when you blitz him, he's going to be able to get away from that pressure. And again, the communication, we should do a feature on that. Mm-hmm. The communication that when he gets outside, sometimes he runs for 15 or 20 because he's that kind of athlete. Other times he buys times and he finds Jefferson or Chase or the big tight end, Moss, somebody frees up. So it's a little bit of pick your poison.
I've got a perfect 3-hour pregame show in which we could do that feature.
Let's do it.
Let's do it out in Phoenix, leading into the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl before each of the college football playoff semifinal games. How about the nominees for the performance of the year?
Well, we keep talking a lot about LSU, and they deserve it. Joe Burrow, remember him against Alabama in Tuscaloosa? 393. Not to mention he ran the ball really well that night and gave Alabama's defense fits. Remember, Tua played in this game. They put 41 up, but they just could not outscore Joe Burrow. And finally, after 8 years, the Tigers get a win over the Crimson Tide. I called this game. I've never seen a better individual performance. They were down 28-3, and it was not looking good until the second half when Jalen Hurts willed his team to a comeback. You see the 4 touchdown passes, just an impressive night, and that, especially in that second half, by Jalen Hurts. Chase Young, you know, we all knew about Chase Young. We bragged about him all year, but 4 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss against a really talented offensive line of Wisconsin, and not to mention a couple forced fumbles, a monster game for Chase Young that took him to a whole different level that day in Columbus.
The Herbie Award for Performance of the Year goes to Oklahoma's Jalen Hurts.
Jalen hashtags a lot of his things on social media, rare breed or built for this. And I don't know that was ever more evidence because he was part of the reason they fell behind 28-3 with mistakes. But to answer the way he did with this virtuoso performance in the win.
And that hit right there was an example of what he faced. It wasn't just the numbers. It was the beating that he took that day from that Baylor defense, the first matchup in Waco.
You take a look at this PlayStation Player Impact rating and what Jalen has been able to do. He's responsible for 51 touchdowns this year and nearly 12 yards per pass attempt. Now, a lot of that is the product of the Oklahoma offense and also a product of having CeeDee Lamb out there. But Jalen stepped in there 1 year in the system and has performed really well in a different way than Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield, but he's performed well.
Early in the year, first half, he was performing a lot like in his own way, but it was a similar. You could see similarities between what Baker was doing, what Kyler Murray, and it's old Lincoln Riley. But if you didn't already respect Lincoln Riley, to change after a loss against Kansas State, and they had Iowa State, and things got competitive for about a 4-week span. They changed in the middle of the year and became more of a running offense. And it had a lot to do with maybe taking the ball out of the hands of the potential turnover of Jalen Hurts because he had a couple moments where he turned it over late in the year and late in the game. And I think that they deserve a lot of credit because he's either broken the record for Oklahoma quarterbacks in rushing yards or he already did. So, I mean, think about the quarterbacks you've had there. You would never think about that with Baker or Kyler Murray. And they're athletic guys. But what Jalen did was remarkable, and Lincoln Riley, to make that adjustment in game, allow him to get to a conference championship and ultimately a playoff, deserves a lot of credit.
You know, it was old Jack Mildren back when Oklahoma was starting the wishbone that had that rushing record in a single season for quarterbacks. Herbie loves to throw back. He was looking over his shoulder at the big old uniforms. How about some guys who could play in any era? Throwback guys.
I put Derek Brown in this category. You know, just a lunch pail guy. You know, you watch 5 in the middle, and he's tenacious, but the style of play makes me think of a guy that could have played in almost any era. And again, we keep talking about what a bright future he has. But, I mean, look at him there, the rumbling, fumbling, stumbling. That's old school. I like Jonathan Grenard, transfer from Louisville. Love his game, love his passion for the game. And I think that this year he really enjoyed it, an outstanding year. He had one chance to play there for the Gators. And when he was healthy, he was as dominant as anybody on that defense. Love to see him have that great year. And James Skalski, Clemson lost so many from that front seven, the leadership of that front seven. He really stepped up and provided not just playmaking ability, but intensity and most especially leadership, which that Clemson defense needed.
The Herbie Award for Throwback Player goes to Auburn's Derek Brown.
Man, he just jumps off the screen. And you see him just destroy. I mean, we're going to see him make his attack. Watch this play.
Oh, no.
Look what he does.
And that's a really good player. He's throwing into Joe Burrow's face.
Yeah, he's just like picking him up and driving him into the court.
But look, the effort. I mean, it's so rare to see a 300-pounder that's going to play with that kind of effort for 60 minutes.
He could probably help us out at the best restaurant, too, couldn't he?
Look at Memphis, Tennessee here, getting on the board. Folks, Folly. Good little meal there, and had a nice time. People were very, very kind, but the meal was great. Bear enjoyed that, so Bear would help me remember. He helped me remember that one. And look at the hotel. What a weekend we had in Memphis.
Memphis was great. I mean, anytime you have the Ducks come down on the red carpet and get in the fountain.
Oh, he made it.
Here's LC.
LC made a cameo here on the Herbies. We had him dressed up, ready to take the Ducks down.
Did you get a chance to see that? The Ducks
walking the red
I love
carpet?
the Ducks. It's cool.
Yeah.
They live there up on top of the hotel for people who are not familiar. Also the hotel in which the firm was shot, if you like the old John Grisham.
Love that.
Still to come on the Herbies, Coach of the Year. Maybe not the way they dress with Matt Rule, but a lot of guys nominated for Coach of the Year. And how about the game of the year? There were some tremendous ones this season. Would it be that wild and wacky Iron Bowl that found an upright, or would it be LSU's victory in Bryant-Denny? About what we want to put on. One of the common themes is always, let's make sure we hear from the players. But the players change, and coaches get attention because they are the constants, and they set the tone. What about the nominees, Herbie, for Coach of the Year in the Herbie Awards?
Yeah, we've got three great ones this year. Ryan Day, boy, you imagine the shadow he stepped into, taking over for Urban Meyer. 7-0 against Michigan, won a national championship. Ryan Day did an exceptional job of making this his team. The team took on his personality. They go undefeated, win the Big Ten championship, and they go into the playoff. What a way to start for Ryan Day. Matt Rule, my man was 1-11 in his first year. Think of the mess he inherited when he got to Waco with all the off-the-field issues. They're 1-11, baby steps last year to 7-6. This year, all the way to the Big 12 championship and very close to making it into the playoff. And I think Scott Satterfield at Louisville in the ACC, remarkable job. Think about what he inherited, 2-10. Some issues as far as the head coach, the personality of the team, stepped in and had a great year, going 7-5 and off to a bowl game against Mississippi State.
The Herbie Award for Coach of the Year goes to Ohio State's Ryan Day.
There are those who would think it's a ready-made situation to follow Urban Meyer and all the success that he's had, but Ryan Day's been able to take the best of that and still be able to be his own man and put his own imprint on it.
Yeah, and that, like you said, it sounds easy, but look at that talented roster. Look at all the different guys that have struggled to do that. And I think this team's getting stronger with him leading. The recruiting class is great. I think the best thing that Gene Smith did was recognize the infrastructure of that program. And instead of going outside and bringing somebody in, he decided to hire from within. And he decided to take Ryan Day, who really never had any head coaching experience, except for the 3 games he stepped in last year where Urban Meyer was taken out. And I think he did a great job of recognizing the importance of a guy like Mickey Mariotti or the entire staff. You know, he made a slight changes, brought in some new faces on the defensive side of the ball, but other than that, Reese, I mean, they realized what they had established with Urban Meyer was great. They wanted to try to keep that foundation, and they thought Ryan Day was the guy to kind of maintain it, maybe take it to a different level. So far, it's exactly what he's done.
Started his career 16-0. Only Walter Camp and Larry Coker have started their careers better. And the other thing Ryan Day has done well is he handles press conferences very well. But I'm not sure he's the guy who's quite delivered the quote of the year yet.
One of the best lessons I've learned is that you don't worry about criticism from people that you wouldn't seek advice from. So I get a lot of criticism. If it's somebody that I'd go sit down and seek some advice from, then I might listen to that.
Man, I love that. I love that for all of us.
Yeah.
In this day and age of social media and the toxic world that we sometimes find all of ourselves in, how about that quote? I mean, that quote just is perfect for not just a football coach, but for anybody, really.
Yeah, no question.
Worry about the people that you would actually seek advice from.
Yeah, I mean, if you let somebody ruin your day that doesn't have your best interest at heart, doesn't care about you, and actually enjoys seeing you stumble a little bit.
Yeah.
Although I would ask, when's the last time Dabo got any criticism? Like 2013, maybe?
It's been a while.
It's been a minute since my man's been criticized.
They're on like an 8-year run here. Even though he tries his darndest to find something that somebody criticized us for, but they're on a pretty good run.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
It would be a turnaround if Dabo ever got criticized, at least in the near future. What about the turnaround of the year?
Well, let's look at Central Michigan. Jim McElwain steps in there, 1-11 last year, 8-5 this year.
And the MAC championship game.
Yeah, MAC championship. I mean, just a remarkable year. They're going to play San Diego State in a bowl game. You got to be very, very happy for the Chippewas with what they did from last year to this year. The Louisville Cardinals, we talked about Scott Satterfield earlier, 2-10, now 7-5. We'll play Kansas State in a bowl game, or actually Mississippi State in a bowl game, and just really proud of the way he's doing it. And the culture has changed immensely there at Louisville. Navy, 3-10 last year with Coach Ken, did 9-2. Remember, they still have Army to play Saturday, and they're going to be playing Kansas State in their bowl game. So just a tremendous turnaround, great players. Malcolm Perry's had a monster year, but great to see Navy back winning as many games this year as they have.
The Herbie Award for Turnaround of the Year goes to the Chippewas of Central Michigan University.
Well, Jim McElwain with the exit at Florida, and as we take a look at our blimp-worthy moment presented by Goodyear, Central Michigan deserves a ton of credit. They didn't really start off the season that great, but McElwain's team got better and better over the course of the campaign, and he sort of rejuvenated not only the program, but rejuvenated his coaching career, too.
Yeah, I was going to say, he didn't do great at Florida and was at Michigan for a year as an assistant, gets back in as a head coach, and really enjoyed a monster year in 2019 from where they were a year ago.
I would say that if you're 1-11 and then new coach comes in and you have a winning record, that is perseverance. There have been some other teams that are nominated for being team perseverance.
Let's stay in the MAC. Kent State, 3-6. They were able to win their last 3 games. They finished 6-6 on the year. And you know how it is when you get to 6-6, you're headed to a bowl game. They play Utah State coming up in their bowl game. Next one we have coming up is Tennessee. They started 1-4. We talked about that loss to Georgia State, blown out by Florida and Georgia. They won 6 of their last 7, including the last 5 games in a row. They finished 7-5. All of a sudden, Jeremy Pruitt starting to put it together. Wisconsin, I know they had a great year. They got to the Big Ten Championship, but they were 6-0, highly ranked. They get upset by Illinois. The following week, embarrassed against Ohio State. Looks like they're out of the Big Ten race. They beat Iowa. They go to Minnesota and beat Minnesota in the snow. Win 4 in a row to get to Indianapolis. That's perseverance.
The Herbie Award for Team Perseverance goes to the Tennessee Volunteers.
I can't think of a better winner than the Big Orange, because not only after that 2-5 start where the natives restless, there was talk, is Phil Fulmer going to take over mid-season for Jeremy Pruitt? Jeremy Pruitt over his head, all kind of quarterback changes, and Garantano comes back in, plays much better in the latter stages of the year. Tennessee well deserving of that. What about the nominees for the game of the year?
Yeah, we've got Alabama and Auburn, the Iron Bowl. What a great game this was. Auburn defeats Alabama 48-45 once again for Bama. Hate to show that. Missed field goal late. This was a great call late that confused Alabama. Ended up having too many men on the field, and that sealed the win. Another one in the SEC, LSU at Alabama. Remember, Tua is there. He's out there trying to play on that ankle. Played pretty well considering he was limping around, but LSU and Joe Burrow would not be denied. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a monster game. This one's a little bit sneaky with Oregon and Washington. People forget about this game. Oregon wins 35-31. Anybody who knows anything about college football, especially in the Pac-12, I don't care if Washington didn't have a good year. You go to Seattle and beat them there, that's a huge win, and the Ducks were able to do that.
The Herbie Award for Game of the Year goes to LSU for its win at Alabama.
This LSU-Alabama game, LSU had to slay the elephant in the room after years of frustration, and they did it in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, after 8 years, they finally were able to get their signature win for the year. And I think in all of college football, this is the biggest win of the year for anybody. And I think Joe Burrow, from this point on, I think they realized they had a chance to have a special year.
Yeah, that was a big they needed that for validation.
Yep.
That was the only way for LSU to get validation. Now they have it, and they're the #1 team going into the college football playoff. There's so many moments over the course of the season that can set the stage for how you determine a championship. Let's look at the mayhem moment that got us here, brought to you by Allstate. And there are so many of them, including this play by Patrick Queen late in the first half.
Yeah, you know, Alabama decided to go for points. They realized that they needed every possession to try to come up with points into the first half. They get aggressive, and instead it backfires. Tua throws the interception, and LSU gets a chance to get more points instead. This is just last week in Dallas, the play that saved the season for Oklahoma. The game went into overtime. One overtime is all the Sooners needed. They get the win, punch their ticket as, again, the Big 12 champ, and into the playoff again for the 2019 season. This one, remember this? The two-point play comes up short. The Clemson defense steps up. This is the game that everybody wanted to point back to. Boy, Clemson struggled in Chapel Hill, struggled against the Tar Heels. Are they really that good?
The Herbie Award for play that saved the season goes to the Clemson Tigers.
So does an honorary Herbie go for running this play into a bad look to North Carolina, or is it just a Clemson response?
I got to give Brent Venables guys credit. I know how much pride they take, and that game didn't go well for Clemson, but you know what? Instead of learning a lesson with a loss, Dabo's bunch learns a lesson with a close win.
How about the best call of the year?
I think this may have happened even by accident. Waddle goes back for a punt. You got the punter right there, but also Bo Nix. On the field together, created confusion and chaos. Alabama, too many people on the field. Auburn gets the win.
And what about the play of the year?
The play of the year, Joe Burrow, 3rd and 17, on the road. Instead of killing the clock, they get aggressive with the play calling. Steps up, Burrow makes the throw to Justin Jefferson. Game, set, match, and they sent a message. Didn't just win that game. I think that's the game and the play that they sent a message that it's a new year and a new approach with Coach O being more aggressive.
You know, we had seen them in practice, and we'd heard them talk.
Yeah.
But with that lead, instead of trying to run the clock out the way LSU might have in the past, play clock, aggressive, score again. That's when you knew.
Yeah, it really felt different there. And people look at Texas' record, that was an easy win. No, that night in Austin was a hostile environment, and the fact that they decided to be aggressive and go for it, I just think it sent a message that, you're right, man, we walked out of that stadium thinking, this feels different for LSU right now.
And one of many Heisman moments, as it turns out, for Joe Burrow, 3rd and 17. Don't just move the chains, move the scoreboard. Certain things in life, all you need is one quick glance, like Herbstreit in a $5,000 suit. You say, you know what? He looks the part. I know exactly what this is I'm looking at. Sort of like the nominees for the Herbie and the all-uni team. Your uni, a $5,000 suit. Or it used to be big shoulder pads.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, how about this? I love to look at these guys. Some of these guys that take a little bit of extra time, look good and play good, right? Grant Delpit from LSU has had a great year and always looks the part every time he takes the field. This year went from 9 to 7, and I think he's one of those guys that can make either number work, but I think 7 looks even better this year. Isaiah Simmons, I don't know if it's possible to look much better than this guy. Is that outside linebacker, nickel, safety, does everything again for the Tigers and looks pretty while he does it. Isaiah Simmons, a monster year at number 11, definitely worthy of being up there as a candidate. And Chase Young, I don't even know if I should just talk while we show this guy. I mean, you wear a single digit and you rush off the edge, capable of coming up with 4 sacks in one game. He's looked good since he's been at Ohio State, but especially this year, leaned out, got stronger, made plays every single week. Yikes.
The Herbie Award for all uni goes to Ohio State's Chase Young.
If you take a look at AT&T's best performer, it is in the best performance. It is Chase Young. And hey, look, all due respect to Delpit and Simmons, who look great in their uniforms. This dude looks like something from a video game that you draw up. This is what Michelangelo would do with a football player.
Yeah, exactly.
It's him right there.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, good. He's the epitome of play good or look good and play good.
Well, Deion used to say, look good, play good, pay good. Right?
And he'll be there too.
Yeah, that's on its way too. Look at the number of sacks. That's despite missing a couple of games and still 21 tackles for loss for the Ohio State defensive star. How about some nominees for the Spark Plug of the Year?
These are the guys that just they seem to make plays and get their offense going. How about KJ Hamler? You know, obviously the biggest threat they had on the perimeter this year for the Penn State offense. Number one, anytime he had his hands on the football, big things were capable of happening at any given moment in State College. He had a great year, and I know that he'll have a great year next year as well for that Penn State offense. Justin Jefferson, he's just one of these guys I love to watch. Justin Jefferson is dynamic. And I remember talking to Joe Brady. He reminds me of one of those guys, you want to get him the ball early because it seems like it not only impacts him, but the entire offense because of the swag he plays with and the personality that he plays with. Number two gets that LSU offense going. And then there's CeeDee Lamb. You know, I know that late in the year, OU started to run the ball more. I would still contend that pound for pound, I think CeeDee Lamb could be the best receiver in college football. And that's the area he's improved the most. He used to be just a physical receiver. Now he's able to have a lot of yards after the catch. Had a really big year for the OU offense in year 3 for Lamb.
The Herbie Award for biggest spark plug goes to LSU's Justin Jefferson.
LSU taking home a lot of Herbies, and justifiably so. 14 touchdown catches this year is third best in the country.
Yeah. Like I said, between he and Jamar Chase, Chase had bigger numbers, but I don't know if you could say that Justin Jefferson didn't have bigger impact on this season and the plays that he had a chance to make, including that one, that 3rd and 17 we talked about earlier.
You know, he really seemed to be the security blanket for Burrow many times as well. He was not overlooked, but some guys were.
Most overlooked, we're going to go with Brandon Ayuk, a wide receiver. A lot of you are going, who? Yeah, wide receiver at Arizona State. We talked Jaden Daniels, the young quarterback, number 5 right there as a freshman. Well, he was lucky enough to have the senior number 2. And he was also had a big impact as a return man with ASU this year. But the games that I watched, and I watched a bunch of them, he was just as dangerous as a receiver as he was a return man. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If you get too worried about what Joe Burrow can do and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, I don't know how many times we watched little number 22 make you pay for that. Something to keep in mind as you watch the playoff against OU, and if they win that game, maybe the national championship, you better account for 22, or it could be a long day for any defense. And Kayvon Wallace, while we all talk about Isaiah Simmons and all the rest of those great players on that Clemson defense, number 12 just goes out and makes play after play after play, involved in so many different ways. Can play man-to-man, can play the middle of the field, can blitz, can cover, does it all for Brent Venables and that Clemson defense.
The Herbie Award for most overlooked player goes to Arizona State's Brandon Ayuk.
Big play guy, big target for Jaden Daniels, nearly 1,200 yards receiving. That was second best in the Pac-12, and junior college transfer has a great pro future ahead of him. You mentioned the return game as well. He's going to be a valuable draft pick when the time
comes. He really will. Really has a great future and took advantage of having a big year this year with that young quarterback.
How about the most unselfish player, Herbie? And you know what? This is a guy who did everything he needed to do for the team. And Lynn Bowden Jr., because of injury, they had to move him to quarterback.
How about, about the last 7 games, they went 5-2. They didn't throw the ball very much, but an unselfish attitude to go in and play quarterback when he's really known as a wide receiver.
You know, everybody knew they were going to run, and he still got it done. Much like our celebrity guest pickers. They know what they're going to do, but who set the standard will get a Herbie for being our best celebrity guest picker on College Game Day. Gift of gab, and apparently with the gift of picking well.
Exactly.
He missed one game.
One game. He was the leader at the end of the year.
Yeah, he
should be smiling.
Played an LSU football player in the movie Everybody's All-American. The Lincoln Lawyer literally made his appearance. Matthew McConaughey in Texas.
That's where LC got the fight song going, the Texas fight song that he said stop the music, and he went Mike the Tiger. And then in Austin.
Then Matthew tried to tear his head off.
Yeah.
And then in Nebraska, Gabrielle Union, who's a big Nebraska fan, and Dwayne Wade, her husband.
Nice combo here, and they both knew their stuff. Gabrielle Union loves the Huskers.
She did not love the result that night, though.
No, she did not.
I don't think she got that game right either, as I recall. Buckeyes sort of laid the wood to him that night.
The Herbie Award for Best Guest Picker goes to Matthew McConaughey at the University of Texas.
Well, Matthew McConaughey has loved Texas for a long time. We've had a lot of fun. We've gone down there. He's been a celebrity picker a few times.
Oh, no,
and it's the reason we gave him the nod. He kept singing it. He's singing, by the way. He's singing the entire fight song. We went off the air. We threw to the noon game. He's still singing. He might be singing this second right now.
That was a great scene.
That was.
And here's the scene of the year. College game day on Beale Street. The city of Memphis was unbelievable.
Look at that.
Beale Street and B.B. King Boulevard.
I mean, we gave it the best restaurant, we gave it the best hotel, and now we give it the best scene of the year for College game day. We had a great time, needless to say, in Memphis.
And it was a great game, too, as well. How about some other nominees for the scene of the year? You had Minnesota fans storming the field after they beat Penn State. That was a validating game for P.J. Fleck as he continued trying to row the boat.
That was a great scene.
Got his team so close to the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
How about this? Our director on College Game Day, Rodney Perez, got the Texas flag out there.
That was great. That was great. College Game Day in Austin, number 6 and number 9. What a scene that was.
All right, let's check out the winner now. Got a sneaking suspicion.
The Herbie Award for Scene of the Year goes to Beale Street, Memphis, Tennessee.
There were so many people. We went out to that octagon set that we do in the crowd.
Yeah.
We had to go a block away and then through a bar where people were already invited early in the morning. They were getting
Beale
ready.
Street, they get it going usually at night, but they opened up all the restaurants, all the bars that morning, and people took advantage of it. They had a good time.
Memphis, I'll tell you what, cleaned up on the awards. You know, we have so many moments that are fun, some that are very serious and heartwarming. How about Casey O'Brien from Minnesota getting into the game as a holder, a 4-time cancer survivor? And it's been his dream to play college football, been battling cancer since he had been in high school, became a holder for P.J. Fleck's team, and in the game against Rutgers was able to get him in the game. And when we went to Minnesota with College Game Day, just during that week, Casey found out that he had to have more surgery, has more cancer treatments ahead. He has been such an inspiration to everybody, I think, across college football with his fight and his attitude toward it.
And he doesn't want you to feel sorry for him.
No.
He is all about fighting. I remember sitting down with P.J. Fleck the day before we got ready to call the game late in the year with Wisconsin when the snow all came down, and just found out about the procedure that week. And he showed me a text from Casey, and it was all about, hey, I'm good, can't wait to get back to the team, just all positive, all just showing really what his attitude exemplifies and how inspiring he is to so many people.
You know, I met him first during the summer at the Big Ten luncheon when he was speaking on behalf of all of the players in the Big Ten. So heartfelt, so inspirational, just an exemplary young man. It's one of the reasons we're wearing these V Foundation pants to continue the fight and raise money for cancer research. Still to come on the Herbies, we continue to hand out awards for this 2019 college football season. The ultimate Herbie. Kirk will tell you what it is. Our final award is the Ultimate Herbie. We have a lot of fun with these awards, but this one really epitomizes what you value in a college football player.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing. We've celebrated a lot of great players, and the Ultimate Herbie is still about being a great player, but it's also about being a great teammate and kind of representing a guy that I would want to be a great teammate with. And to me, it's beyond just being an All-American. It's a guy that is a great leader. And I think J.K. Dobbins, running back from Ohio State, is a great example of being considered for an Ultimate Herbie, a guy that, of course, has had a great year, but you talk to his teammates, they quickly would tell you what a great guy he is and how he helps people in that locker room to be an unselfish player. Trevor Lawrence, another guy, monster year, gets all the accolades, all the attention, undefeated as a starter, yet as humble as you can come. And for that, we really appreciate what Trevor Lawrence represents in this sport of college football and wish him all the best. But another great nominee for the Ultimate Herbie. And then the last one is Tua. Tua, you know, it's pretty well documented what kind of spirit he has, faces a lot of adversity, with the ankle last year, tried to go out and play in the semifinal, tried to go out and play in the national championship, did a good job. This year comes back, gets injured again, constantly staying positive and lifting up others while he goes through not just the success, but also through the adversity.
The Herbie Award for the ultimate Herbie goes to Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua has really transformed the way the whole Alabama program is perceived, and he is certainly a deserving winner of the ultimate Herbie.
Yeah, like I said, there he is with a broken nose, concussion, that he suffered, and the hip dislocation, and yet still being there for his teammates. Demanded that he, in fact, be down there, even though the trainers and doctors thought it would be best that he not be down there. So very well deserving.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, the winner of the ultimate Herbie. Congratulations to all the winners. Can't wait to get the college football playoff started. Herbie and I will be there. See you later.